I have the right to challenge that law.
Yes.
Without necessarily breaking that law.
Agreed. But the question here is this, and I agree with your line of reasoning. You see, the problem is this, that for any government to arrive, apart from martial law or anything under executive orders, for any government to arrive at banning something, it would go through a process.
Yes.
Okay? Now, the very people that were elected on behalf of everybody will be making the decision. It isn't going to be a referendum every time, is it? Yeah? So we are going to be totally reliant on the decision that they make. We might not agree with it. The question then therefore turns on its head here, and I would ask you, are you really suggesting total freedom of speech within the law?
It doesn't necessarily have to be within the law, because you might think the law is unreasonable.
But you won't break it.
I won't break it, but the reason I won't break it is fear of imprisonment.
Oh, so sorry.
But that's, hang on. That's different from claiming that we ought to have the freedom.
There's a distinction. I agree with you. But you are saying to me that why should we fear? Why has religion taken, as you were saying earlier on, because of fear, because of intimidation, etc., whatever the reason may be. The central point here I'm addressing is your claim to total freedom of speech. You see, if I start breaking it down, yes, brother, we will find that there are many areas where you thought you had total freedom of speech, but for one reason or another, you will not. So, as an example, you know, if I were to take this approach, please tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah? Here is a respected gentleman who is definitely older than me. Yeah? And I approach him. I approach him, and I start with a. Before I ask the question, I start effing and blinding at him. Do you think that's right?
No, hang on.
No, is it right? I'm just asking. I want you to follow my train of thought.
Well, no, it's not right in the sense that, I mean, what's the point doing that?
I'm so glad you said that. And you are agreeing with me when I said there are certain things where once you look at them in depth, you will realize, well, actually, I did say total freedom of speech, but there are ways of actually addressing certain things. And I agree with you. Nothing should be free from criticism. But does it necessarily require offense first before discussion?
No, of course not.
It doesn't.
But
I agree with you.
I'm saying sometimes people are offended by the smallest intellectual challenge. And someone might not be intending to offend, but what they say, it could still be taken as offense.
Yes, it can. You are absolutely right.
Without that person intending to be offensive.
I agree, but I do know one thing, that if I was, for example, speaking to this handsome gentleman here, yes, and I may have detected, or he tells me, look, you are offending me. I definitely, as an individual, I would say genuinely, I'm so sorry if I have. My intention was not that. Or I can say, hey, listen, it's freedom of speech. I don't even care what you think. Which one do you think is better?
The first one.
Why?
Because you're trying to reason with him.
So do I really need to even adopt the offensive stance?
No. I never.
You're not saying freedom of speech are limits. You're saying the limits of freedom of speech.
I'm so glad you made that point. So what we are effectively saying, and I agree with you, brother, what we are effectively saying is, look, you must have freedom to discuss any subject matter. But can we do it in an environment where it is conducive for the benefit of the parties concerned? Do you agree?
Yes, of course.
I would totally agree with you. However, one of the things that I do see, and as you rightly pointed out here, when we are talking about collectively religion, yes, it is being given the works right now, yes? Why should it have a privileged position? I agree with you. Yeah? Why should anybody have a privileged position? Look, we are sane, reasonable human beings. We should be able to discuss matters. Yeah? You can come to me and tell me, you know what, I don't agree with anything you say. I will not have a problem. I will say, okay, let's go through it. Let's see what it is. And likewise, if you told me something and I think, what is he on about? I'm able to discuss it. The central question, though, I do need answering here is, as you rightly pointed out, there is no such thing as an absolute right to freedom of speech.
Well, I disagree with you. I think that there is. Because, you see, the thing is, like, just because you have an absolute right, that doesn't mean there are people can still abuse that right to incite violence, which I think then goes beyond speech. So if you're inciting violence against someone, you're then causing physical harm, which is where I think the line should be drawn.
I agree, but you see, you know that line that you talk about, that is the issue of contention here. Because I would suggest to you, you are absolutely right, and I agree with you. Any individual who uses language which may consider, or rather would look as though it is inciting towards an act which would clearly be against the law or against another human being, needs to be seriously considered. I agree with you. However, the question is this: if I say that X is doing the right thing, okay, and he may be implicated in killings, murders, etc., would I be permitted to support an individual like that if his particular organization has been proscribed?
You have the right to proclaim support, but then as long as you do so without inciting violence yourself or adhering to.
But here is the problem. You know, in law there is an issue of causation. Yeah? So if I'm supporting this particular individual, okay, and this individual belongs to an organization that is proscribed, what would happen to me?
You'll be stopped from doing so.
Now, if I were to, I agree with you, but if I were to say, look, I think you are unfair, and I should have the freedom to support him, what will the law say?
Well, yes, I mean the law would ban you from doing so in this country.
Now, like, for example, I can say I'm a Nazi.
Yeah.
And if you say you're
Sorry, what was that?
if you say you're a Nazi, for example, then the law aren't necessarily going to stop you from being a Nazi or saying I'm a Nazi. They might watch you.
Yeah.
Okay.
They might spy on you,
they
but
might
they're not going to
spy
stop you from doing it.
But
then as soon as it looks like you're going to do something to commit harm,
Yes.
that's when the law steps in.
Now, I agree with you, but you see, what we are actually in effect agreeing to is that freedom of speech is a vital aspect of human interaction, but it should not be abused. The question, if I can just finish, the question therefore arises is, what criteria are we going to use to determine whether the line has been overstepped?
Well, English philosopher John Stuart Mill defined freedom of speech as being able to say anything you want as long as it doesn't take away any rights from anyone else. And I think that's a good summation of how we should embody.
Did he include the law in it?
Sorry?
Did he include the law and what the law has to say?
He said rights. So
rights are enshrined in law.
In law, exactly.
So it is legal.
Yes, it is legal.
So it has nothing to do with what our opinions are.
What do you mean it's got nothing to do with
Well, in terms of freedom of speech, if what he said, what Mill said, is to be accepted, he did say about rights, and I would humbly submit that rights are enshrined in law.
Yes,
Yeah? If that is the case, then we have got to accept that if we talk about freedom of speech, absolute or otherwise, unless and until it is enshrined in law, we are merely opinionators.
Yes, but also, there's also a debate to be had about what rights are legitimate for people to have.
I can agree with that. But that again has to be with a reference to law.
No, but it's not just about law, it's also about, so for example, like I was talking about the criticizing religion. Now, technically speaking, criticizing someone's religion is not against the law.
No.
However, it is a social taboo to an extent. And that has also got to be challenged. So just because it's legal, that doesn't necessarily mean it's accepted by wider society.
No. I agree with you. I agree with you. There's no problem. But when you talk about a taboo subject, okay, it isn't something about freedom of speech. It isn't. If you raise the issue, it will be discussed. There are many people in life where you will come across an individual who will be more than willing to have a conversation with you, and you'll come across an individual, the moment you mention something sensitive, they will leave or they will not entertain you. The question is, if I am allowed to support a proscribed organization, I know, as you rightly pointed out, there is a potential for me to be arrested. Why? Because there is a connection made between that proscribed organization and you. The fear is that you may have the same kind of thoughts as the proscribed organization may have had. Yeah. So my view here is that there is freedom of speech, but freedom of speech in totality has to be within the law. The question is, when you say, as you rightly pointed out earlier on, where legal systems conflict, because you touched on that, yeah? About the support, and potentially I think you're talking about Saudi Arabia, yeah? Where you have got legal systems competing with each other, do you not think that unless and until you have actually studied the legal systems, then only can you suggest that why are we still allowing X to happen?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you're sort of implying that we should automatically accept the status quo of the legal system as it is.
No, I'm not.
Is,
what I
is
am
that
saying,
what you're saying? Because
no,
you're
what I
saying
am,
we should do so
yeah,
within the law, but what if you want to challenge
there is-
certain laws which
like,
are in place?
I agree. Like I said earlier on, challenging the law is not an issue. The issue here, the issue here, is.
For the rest of this video, come to Alltruthrevealed Channel.
You heard it from him, yeah?
But they didn't speak really, yeah, but you sure you weren't here.